Hey, there we go. It's time. It's that time. Are you ready? It's time to paint my logo. I promised that I would do it before. You voted on it. I agreed with the vote that everybody put in. It's time to paint my logo. So sit back, or don't sit back. Grab your brushes, grab a pencil, grab your paints, paint along with me. Quickly draw it out. Let's do it together. That's the best thing yet. And let's get ready to go. Okay, so here we are. I've got all my colors laid out that I'm going to use to make my new masthead or logo or whatever with. It's going to look something like this. They're all going to be here with a little paint squirting out of them, mixing down at the bottom. So I've just kind of arranged these in a random fashion, but these are kind of the colors I wanted to pick. I wanted a couple blues, a couple of greens, a couple of reds, a yellow. I think I have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors here. I laid all my colors out and thought, which ones do I want? And these are the ones I came out with: Pyrol Red, Ultramarine Blue, Quinacridone Red, Sap Green, Gamboge, Pthalo Green, and Turquoise. And so I'm just going to set these off to the side like that. I'm going to grab a brush, and I'm going to start with just the basic color. First, I'm going to paint the colors on the tubes. Then I think I'm going to move on to the tubes when I get that the way I want it. Then I'm going to move on to the color down below. The only thing I think I need to tell you is that I have a second water up here. Here it is. A small water, so that when I'm using my yellow, here it is, that the color doesn't get tainted with anything else. The other colors are strong enough. I can kind of get by with the water I have. The colors will still be pretty vibrant so long as I keep them clean on my palette. But yellow, if you use dirty water for yellow, you get a dirty yellow, and nobody likes that. So here we go. I'm going to start, let's see, I'm going to start just by putting a little bit of color on, and I'm working with a very clean brush, and I'm just going straight out of my color, just getting it the consistency I want, and I'm going to come straight over to my tube and lay that on just about like that. There we go. And I'm putting a second stripe of color on all of mine. There we go. And I'm just going to move right down the line. I'm going to let all of these dry thoroughly. We'll probably put a little bit of a second coat on there, and we'll work the gray on around that. Okay, so my next one, I'll let you zoom in a little bit, is my Pthalo Green. And it's a nice, it's beautiful, bright green. There we go, this tube. And by the way that I'm drawing this on here is going to help to really give this tube its shape, right? If I just did a line straight across, it would look like that tube is flat, but you get to the edges and you pull it down a little bit like that, and it starts to give it a little bit of roundness. We'll flesh that out a little bit later as we put in our gray and our shadowing, but just realize right off the top that we need to be aware that we need to make the stripe of color on here look like, there we go, look like this tube has been pushed in or dented, or as mine are, thrown in a box over there, smashed in with all of its friends. There we go. There's the yellow. All right. Sap Green. Here we go. Look at the Sap Green one. Really looks kind of dented up here. Got a little peak there. There we go. Just a second stripe. I always feel like I'm moving so fast in these videos. About half the time, and about the other half of the time, it feels like I'm going so slow. What am I doing now? Quinacridone Red, Quinacridone Red, you know what, I don't actually have on my palette. I gotta put just a bit of that on. There we go. It's kind of a pinky red. There it is, that's probably too thick. There it is. So I don't know, do any of you guys feel that way when you paint? I'll get halfway through a painting and I'm like, man, I should slow down. I really am blasting through this, and then another bit of time, I don't know, I'll be painting and I'll be going, oh my gosh, it's taking forever to get through this. I don't know what's going on. Truth be told, those are the nights, a lot of the times I just pack it in. If it seems like it's taken a long time, you're probably not, excuse me, you're probably not in the right mindset to do it. So I still try a lot. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Some nights I just pack it in like that. What's my last one over here? Pyrol Red. That's where I need to go to. Pyrol Red. Let's get a bit of that nice fiery red here. There we go. Nice, just like that. And we're not looking for perfection. It's a stripe, right? If our stripe isn't perfect, our stripe isn't perfect. If you look at your watercolor tubes, if you're painting with tubes, you know they don't look perfect either. They're smashed and pushed in. I mean, look at these ones. All right, that's not a perfect tube. It's got, I obviously squeezed it just like that to get the stuff to come out, and most of them are the same way. None of them, well, that one's mostly round. None of them really are round the way they used to be anymore, so we'll deal with it. Okay, so I'm going to come back now, and I want to get a nice gray. Let me slide this in and slide that out so we can see. I'm going to start with a little bit of Payne's gray, but I also think I'm going to add to that and try to make a little bit more lively gray. Let's see, a little bit more of that red. Not quite what I want. That might be too much. Actually, parts of that are pretty good. What I'm just trying to make a nice lively gray. It can be a little red, it can be a little green. I'm not going to worry about that too much. I just want to see a livelier gray. Maybe that's not the right gray for us. So let's see, what else could we use? Opposites on the color wheel will do it. So I don't have an orange, but I've got an orange yellow here. Lots of times I just end up using turquoise for my gray, and nobody seems to mention too much about it. Now, since I used a yellow, oh, you guys can't even see. What am I doing? I'm way off the screen. So I'm making my own gray right here, which is a turquoise blue, a Gamboge yellow, and I'm just putting a little bit of Pyrol Red in here. And so I've got this gray, which is a greener gray. I've got this red, which is a redder gray. And I've got Payne's gray, which we all know, that I can choose from as I'm painting my tubes. So, in fact, I can mix in my Payne's gray into any of these and kind of alter it a little bit too. Okay, so I'm going to start back, way back over here. I think I'm rambling on a little bit. Let's see, and I'm gonna add just a little bit of yellow ochre to that gray. Just give it a little bit of an aged feel, maybe. Actually, you know what? I'm going to mix up. I wasn't thinking about it. I should make it look like. Let's change course. Right in the middle. Stop. We're changing course. We're going to make it look like this is old paper here. That gray will just mix in. We're not going to worry about it. It'll be a little darker there, but so be it. Happens. Not to worry about. See, there we go, all taken care of. I guess this will kind of look like it's got a kind of a paper wrapper on here. It's gone a little old. They've been sitting around a little bit, huh? I have to do this a little different. I'm gonna have to be a little careful up here now. Right around the front of this, which we do know that we want gray. And as I go from one of these to another, I'm just going to alter the color of my yellowing, but my wrapper on here just a little bit. There we go, and don't worry about getting necessarily any shadows on here or your thumbprint on here right now. We are just going to put some color in here. We'll come back and we'll put that shadowing on there. Won't be a big deal. There we go. That was a good idea you guys had. I'm glad you reminded me to make this kind of a yellowish color. I was totally just going to make these tubes totally just all gray and not worry about it, not even think about it. That was better. This would make them look like they've been sitting in a box for a long time. In fact, I've got a couple of these over in my box that I got at the estate sale. The paper on the outside of the package is totally yellowed. Looking old. I guess they don't do that anymore. Well, these ones have paper on them. They have a plastic sticker on the outside. Those tubes. The old Winsor Newton ones had a paper sleeve on them. Here we go. Just doing some of these really lightly. And I'm not necessarily trying to recreate the stripes on here. I don't want these to look necessarily like any one brand of paint. I'm not trying to do that. I just want, when you look at it, for you to know, hey, I know what that is. That's a tube of paint. If you see that, I'm going to call it good. I think my job will have been done. There we go. I know you're watching me and you're going, oh. Now you're going, uh-oh. Now you're going, oh, I wish you would speed that up a little bit. I'm just trying to get just a light coat though. We won't be much longer with this, and then we'll go back and do some more fun stuff, or more of the fun stuff. There we go. And you see this one that I put the gray on over here? When we're done, you'll never even notice that had that little oops over there. No big deal. Let's see, I'm mixing up a little more color. little stronger, but no big deal. I keep saying no big deal because, you know, every time I talk to somebody about watercolor painting, they go, oh, that's so hard to do. It's so unforgiving. I can't believe you could watercolor paint. That's the hardest medium. And I always go, really? Because I think it's pretty, I wouldn't say it's easy, but God, you show me some oil paints, and I'm like, holy cow, that looks daunting. This is quick and easy. You make a mistake, you get it wet, you dab it off, you're done. No big deal. All right, so now I got this, and I'm gonna come back here. My paint is just really maybe starting to dry. Actually, that's dry. I can see this one's got a little shine, Boy, if I had done this last week, this would have all still been wet. It was so rainy here, I couldn't get my paints to dry. There we go. Just look at that. Zoop. Something like that. All of a sudden, you can see now that now it's starting to look like it's got some roundness to it, isn't it? Let's see what we got here. Well, obviously my light source is up in this corner and it's shooting down this way, or I guess maybe across the paper that way is a better way to put it. Just have to remember that while I'm doing this. There we go, something like this. All right, let's see. Almost. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. This one is still wet. This one's totally still wet over here. That's okay. You can just come in and dab a little bit of extra color in here somewhere. Wherever you think we're going to need a little shot of color in here. Just if you were doing this at home. I don't expect any of you to paint a mini logo of mine. But if you're painting your own logo, or if you think this is fun, I don't know. If you want to give it a shot on your own, there's no right and no wrong on where the shadows are on these tubes. It's wherever you want to put it. Right? I think I've got it in a good spot here. Right, the only thing I really kind of want to do is make sure that wherever I cross that color line, that I've got the same shadow on both sides of it, or roughly on both sides of it. All right, I like that. I'm going to come into my gray, and which one is the most dry? I can see this one I haven't touched yet. Looks the most dry. I'm just going to, the same thing we did with the brown up here. I'm just doing with my gray. And you can make this any, whoa, that's a little too much. You can make this any color, any strength that you want. There you go. You want it a little bit darker? No problem. Just put a little bit more paint on your brush as you paint in here. You want it a little lighter. You think the gray in on the top here. This is what I'm talking about. Right there. You think that's a little lighter on yours? Is getting a little more sun on it or light source on it. You should use a little bit less of that color. If you feel like you got too much like this, well, we'll just go back and pick some off. Re-wet your brush. Just run it right around. We'll take some off just like that. No reason to worry about it. we go. Just shoo, nice and easy. Every time I do this, and I make a noise while I'm painting, I think back to my days growing up watching Bob Ross. Bob Ross would always make noises while he would paint. You'd see him standing up in front of that easel with that giant paintbrush, just whack, 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 dabbing paint on it. And all of a sudden he'd go, choo, there you go. Let's see, I need to put a tree right here. Shook, chick, 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 chick. And have all his fun noises and his little stories. Alright, that's probably more than you wanted to know about my childhood. Ooh. But I'm a giant Bob Ross. I'm still a Bob Ross fan. I watch him on YouTube every now and again. I don't know how you could not enjoy Bob Ross. He has such fun. He enjoys painting so much. I try to bring some of that into what I do, into my paintings. I don't think I'll ever be as good at it as he is. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He was unbelievable. Okay. So I got all the tops of those painted. I'm going to come back in while I'm waiting for these to dry. And I'm going to go back into my brown. I'm going to make it really soupy. Clean that brush out again. And I just want to put just a little bit of shadow on this side of things, right? So it looks like we are indeed somewhat round here. There we go, just a little bit of color in here. And again, I'm not trying to be perfect. I know it's not a perfect thing. It doesn't have to be. Oops, there we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Oops, I went to go over and just take off a little bit of that line there. And I goofed it up. Look, and not a big deal. Went right back over it just with that little damp rag that I got in my hand. Took that out and we're back to being totally fine again. I'm just going to darken up some of the side. Could get my color just a little bit darker. Right, the shadows on this side really are, or really should be anyways, a little bit darker. So I'm just going to attempt to put those in a little bit darker. There we go. Perfect. Just good. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. All right. At this point, I'm hoping that my gray is just dry enough. I'm going to come in here and paint the sides of the little spout. Some of them you can see. There we go. And down on the side. I'm hoping you can see this. I know I'm not doing much with the camera this time. I'm letting you just kind of see it from a little bit away. That's kind of by design. I feel like I've been getting you, zooming you in and zooming you out, and zooming you in and zooming you out. And every time I look up, I'm painting off the screen somewhere else. So I want to try and limit that a little bit. So I'm trying to leave the camera in one spot and not do quite so much with it. See, maybe I got a little bit of shadow down here on this side. Something like that. That's not so bad. I'm kind of liking that. I'm digging that. Looking good. There we go. We can definitely see there's some kind of roundness. It looks like a tube, mostly. Look, if I set them up here, does it look, well, they're not in the right order by any stretch. Does it look like they're supposed to? Yeah, I think kind of it does. Okay. Now, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to come back in our original colors. Let's see. And since we put in some shadows on the shadow side with another shade of our God, what am I trying to say here? With the brown, I think we need to go back and do the same thing with our paint colors. So I'm just going to re-wet mine a little bit and come back in here and just give another shot right over there, wherever in your picture you think that color needs to be. Just put a little bit on there. I got to do the yellow, my Gamboge yellow. I'm actually going to make sure I get a clean brush for this. You don't get too many shots with yellow. I picked a little darker yellow, so I don't have to worry too much about it. And it looks like it's not, maybe isn't going to make much of a difference on the yellow there. So that's good. The rest of it, I'm pretty sure will. Let's see, this one I said was Sap Green. So I think there. There and there. That looks good. Alright, and this one is Quinacridone Red. You can tell just by looking at it. I should have written these down. I mixed up my paints up here. Now they're all out of order. Got to try to remember which one is which now. Let's see, I got a little there, I think. Alright, now the next one is easy. That's Ultramarine Blue. Let's see, a little there, a little dab there. There we go. And again, we're just building up a little bit more and a little bit more. On the end here, I think we've got Pyrol Red. Should be Pyrol Red. This is another one that maybe doesn't show up quite as much as we would like, but we're not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to put a little bit of gray right under. There we go, just like that. Now we get to have the fun. We get to wet this whole thing. I'm going to wet this whole area. I don't really remember how I did that in my test, but I'm going to wet this whole area, and I'm going to dab in the colors I want up here and hope they're going to run down. So let's do that. Let's get this nice and wet. I got a bigger brush. And I'm going to just get a layer of water on here. Nice and wet. I'm going to let that run down. I'm going to let it run down. I'm going to pull it down here. So I hope it's going to stay wet enough while I do this whole thing. I'm going to start with my yellow so I can get it out of the way. Put it in really thick up there. And let that run. Let's see what that does. Alright, I'm going to go in with my Pthalo Green right next to it. Boo! There it goes. Over here, I'm pretty sure that was turquoise. I don't want it to get left out. Push that color over a little bit there. There it goes. Sap Green. Come on, Sap Green, do your thing. Actually, I don't want this one to run quite over that far. There we go. What do we got next? Quinacridone Red. Trying to work quick to get this in. Come on, clean the brush, clean the brush. Ultramarine. Come on, Ultramarine. I don't want a pool over there. And Pyrol Red to end it. Where's my Pyrol Red? Well, that's not so bad. They didn't run down quite like I had hoped they would. But it's not too bad. I like how some of these mixed in there. I think what I'm going to do before I do anything else, I kind of like it. Didn't end up quite like I wanted. That's fine. That's always how it goes. I'm going to dry this up. I'm going to be right back and we're going to try to see if we can finish this up. Alright, so we're back. Everything's dried off. It looks pretty good. We got a couple of things to do. First of all, it kind of looks like we got some paint tubes floating out there in space. So I think if we put some shadowing on the far side, the shadow side of it, I think that'll go a long way towards planting these and making them look a little better. So I just made a little mixture of ultramarine blue and cobalt purple here. Cobalt purple is a pretty light color. It's just going to tone this blue down a little bit. And we just need to put some shadow on this side. I'm going to have to turn my paper a little bit here. And I'm going to very carefully, or try to very carefully, put in some lines. You know what? I'm going to do this one. This is pretty tight in here. I'm going to do this with a liner brush. There we go. Got that in there. And of course, got some shadow in here. Right, okay, now I can go back to my slightly larger brush. A little bit of shadow there. It's going to be a little wider at the front up here, a little bigger shadow because it's a little bit taller. And then it's going to get a little smaller as it goes back. Let's see. There we go. Before I get too far along with this, I'm going to take some of this and I'm just going to soften that edge. I don't want a hard edge on my shadow there. So I'm just going to soften that out a little bit. There we go. And this one too. Just trying to pull that back ever so slightly. There we go. That's some good shadowing. There we go. That doesn't look too bad. Always got to turn it back around the right way to look at it to make sure that it's exactly what you want. If it's not, the best time to change it, if you need to, is when it's still damp. Just that little bit of moisture on there makes it so much easier to get it off. You can still get it off, you know, later on if you need to. Not that big of a deal. We could scrub it a little bit if we had to. Thankfully, we don't have to. And get that off. Let's just soften that edge out. Scrumble that just a little bit. There we go. Just trying to get in there. Come on, get it. And when we're turning it around this way, it looks now like we're kind of a little bit more planted. You can do it a little bit stronger up in the front up here if you wanted to. It's a little closer to you. That color should be a little bit stronger. But I've mixed my color. Now, and it's just slightly different, so I want to there we go. I want to make sure I get some of that different color in there. I want to just soften that. There we go. And I want to do one more thing, which you don't normally see me do. I'm going to take my white gel pen and I'm going to draw on here just some highlights, just a few lines like this, so you know kind of where that paint is coming down. But it's not all going to come down real smooth or really smooth, however that English goes. It's going to need just a few little lines in there to give it to make it look like it's just kind of bubbling out. Bubbling out. Blubbling, I'm not sure is a word. It ought to be, but I don't think it is. There we go. I'm just going to do a couple of little things like that. And on each of these, I'm going to take one tiny little dot out as I'm thinking about it, just like that. And there we go. I think that is going to be good. I'm going to call that good. There it is. I've painted my new logo. I'll probably get it up sometime this week. Look for it. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed painting this. I enjoyed painting this with you. I can't talk anymore. It's getting late at night. Thanks so much for staying with me. I know it's a long video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.